Hello, Liz. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Here, take a seat. The first question comes from an anonymous Jeffrey Elementary student. Would you put more swings, huge slides, and monkey bars at the parks? Would you make gyms for kids and adults? Kids want to work out too. And would you also put more firefighters in the station?
So I'm going to address the first part of that as an overall idea that we need more public access to public amenities. So there's a lot of things going on at the parks. There's a lot of things missing from the parks. We definitely don't have bathrooms at enough parks, and there's definitely not enough activities going on for kids. All of the questions that we got from Jeffrey were, the stack was basically, there's nothing to do. Every single one of those questions was like, could we have more fun? Could we, just a few more swings? And, you know, having spaces for children and families to go is a very, very important part of our campaign, because community connection is where we're able to build public safety in a different way. And so when we have more amenities at the parks, when we have more activities at the parks, when we have more reasons to go to the parks, people are out, people are meeting their neighbors, people are safer. So we definitely are going to be putting more, whatever we can do to make our parks more enjoyable, whether that's the pools, who need lifeguards, whether it's having the bathrooms open. There's going to be a lot of different things that we do so that children have things to do. And then regarding the firefighters, I looked into what Madison is doing, and so they have about 270,000 people that live in Madison, and they have 14 fire stations, and we have 100,000 people, and we currently only have 4 fire stations. So a 5th fire station would definitely be more ideal because of our population, and there's regulations based upon like what type of buildings you have and your land distribution, and that affects how many fire stations you need. But I think that we're very determined to have more housing and more development and more people come to Kenosha, so we need to prepare for that inevitability. And so obviously we'll need more firefighters, but I think right now we have enough firefighters for what we have for stations, but hopefully we'll be able to add more stations. And I think, again, that's part of public safety, is a very key facet of what we're hoping to achieve in Kenosha.
This is an anonymous KUSD high school student. What are your thoughts on the Uptown area? And do you have any plans to do anything to that area?
So I love Uptown. Marbleheads is over in Uptown. My son's barbershop, Faded Barbershop, is over in Uptown. I used to, when I worked downtown, I'm remote now, so I don't have to go out for lunch as much anymore. I used to go to Jack Andrea's for lunch back when Amy was the chef there. I haven't been to it since it's become Cooper's Uptown, but they have food. There's so many cool things in Uptown, and I think people kind of forget that. You know, some of the only brick roads we have in Kenosha are in Uptown. It's a really vibrant area that there's a lot of opportunity in Uptown. And one of the things that I would like to see happen in Uptown is the old Pick and Save. It's the Brass Center. One of the concerns that, again, the children earlier mentioned was there's nothing to do. It would be nice if we had an indoor space where kids could go. It'd be nice if we had an indoor space where families could go. It would be nice if we had a place where there was some sort of food court, possibly. They have it in Racine, where it's basically an incubator, where there's small businesses that are trying to get going, and they have a little storefront, and they're all there. And I think that having an opportunity for small businesses to come into Kenosha, having an opportunity for indoor spaces for families in Kenosha, having something that's within a walkable area is important. And again, Uptown is rapidly changing, and the more that we put in there to make it nice for Kenoshans, I think we should be doing that.
Do you support the Menominee and Seminole Indian tribes' plan to develop a gambling casino in Kenosha? Do you think a casino would be a good idea for our community?
No and no. I don't think that adding something to a community which struggles with addiction that could cause more addiction or more neglect or more, I can't support it. A survey just came out the Kenosha News put it out that people in Kenosha are concerned about drug and alcohol abuse. And I don't think people realize how much our addictions affect our neglect, which affect our children. And I understand it's a revenue stream, and I understand that there's a lot of things in place, and it's, people have really put plans in motion to get this going. I don't support the casino.
What would you do to prepare and incentivize Kenosha residents to create small businesses? How do you plan to prepare the workforce in terms of training so that they would want to stay? What types of jobs creation would you promote and invest in?
So one of the easiest ways for us to make it easy for small business owners in Kenosha is to make sure that we have affordable housing. When people can live here and they can have time to create or work towards other things without having to struggle, that enriches our city. If you look around UW Parkside, some of the names on the buildings are from families who were small business owners, who have invested time and time again in Kenosha and who have now become huge families in Kenosha that give back to Kenosha, not just as businesses, but as donors. The Petretti Fieldhouse, right? That is Frank and Rita Petretti, right? Were builders. They have built apartments all over Kenosha and houses all over Kenosha, and they still have apartments in Kenosha. When you're starting from nothing, when you're starting as an immigrant, when you're coming over and you're like, well, I have nothing, and people are building up and they're given opportunities and they're allowed to survive in a meaningful way. They contribute to their community, and they build their community, and they invest in their community, and they stay in their community. Another great small family business that you see growing and thriving, Tenuda's, right? That's a business that has invested in Kenosha. They want to be in Kenosha, they love Kenosha, and Kenosha loves them. And when we make it easy for people to start small family businesses, they turn into big family businesses, which is amazing, and we need that in Kenosha. And it's not just small business owners, right? We need people that are artists. We need people that are entrepreneurs. We need people that are musicians and makers. Those people need access to affordable housing so that our culture is enriched. When we don't have things going on at night, we get a lot of, there's nothing to do in Kenosha. And it's all kind of a endless cycle. If we're not giving ourselves opportunities, then there isn't anything to do. So we have to be supportive of that. As for how do we prepare people for the next generation of employees, I think our schools, as much as the city has very little to do with what's going on at KUSD, I would like to see a little bit more water science, water safety, water. We have a water utility that needs employees. We have pools that need lifeguards. We have water that we have to drink. This is something, or we have a charter fishing industry that relies upon the lake. We have a beach that people want to enjoy. There's ways for us to make city employees sooner by gearing people towards public service, and we can do that by getting people excited about the things that they can do in Kenosha.
How would you utilize smart city technology and innovation to improve city services, enhance local news media communication, as well as make the city more efficient? Overall, what would a healthy Kenosha look like? So the question kind of feels, a healthy city sounds way different to me than efficient city applying smart technology. A healthy city is a city where people can walk and enjoy themselves, where people feel safe to go shopping, where people are able to go and enjoy the beach. Like there's things in Kenosha, right, that it's just, when we have these nice things, like this is what a healthy city looks like. So regarding smart city technology and how the city can be better at communicating, one of the examples that just most recently happened, we had it's called Magic at Muni. There's a holiday light show it's free to everybody. You go and you can walk around, and the advertisement to get businesses to support the light show was more artfully done and more thought was put into it than the press release announcing Magic at Muni.
like aldermen had screenshots of like PDFs that they were, and that was the way we were spreading information around Kenosha. And I thought, well, we can do better. There's got to be a better way. So whether it's billboards, whether it's making sure that information is going through at the library, going through at the schools, going through the public transit, there's so many different avenues where we can be advertising directly to people. And then if the app were usable, we have a city app. I don't know if you, okay, people don't know this. It's not very usable. I think the most that you can do on there is like report issues, and then the Lincoln Park disc golf course is, they have a fillable like score sheet available, but you can't, it's not a library card, it's not a bus pass, it's not, you know, anything that's helpful. And if it were a way for people to get information, it might be easier for us to get information to people, but right now it's just kind of, well, it does the one, you know, the one or two. And people aren't going to use it because there's no reason to use it. So I think as much as supporting the Kenosha News is important, as much as I'd love to have an LP FM back in Kenosha. I don't know, Parkside has a radio station that's defunct. It'd be community radio, oh boy, what a fun thing that we could do. But that type of stuff is giving people the opportunity to get information out there. We have access, we have community media, Kenosha Community Media, where it's like public access TV, but it's still just not enough people know about it, not enough people use it, and yeah, it's, I know we can do better.
How would you rebuild security forces and communities so that they can trust each other and work together?
So part of the issue of what we have going on in Kenosha is it's twofold. So right now, not as many city workers live in the city as I think should. I think it's nice when people know that their neighbor is someone who might care about them or who might have information. It's an easy way to just first step build community, right? Is you know these people. These are, or it's a, you know someone who knows someone, and that was one of my favorite things when I moved to Kenosha was, you know, you'd go somewhere and you'd see someone you knew for sure, or you went somewhere that you'd see someone that knew someone you knew for sure. You can't leave your house without seeing someone. Well, that's not as much the same anymore, and it's starting to cause more and more issues because people are strangers. And what I'd also like to see is intervention before crisis, because the police are meeting people when they're having really difficult moments, whether it's like high intensity or high emotion or high conflict. It's really difficult for the police to step in when everyone's at 100. And then they're expected to de-escalate or to facilitate, and you know, there might be neglect happening with children and they're walking into a situation, or it's a lot. And we're asking the police to be social workers, we're asking them to go in before firefighters, we're asking them to be first responders, we're asking them to be security, we're asking them. And I get that they're there for public safety, but I think, again, one of the things that we can do is work on public safety before it gets to policing. Community connection before it gets to crisis. Meeting people before they're getting into DCFS, before they're getting into substance abuse, before they're getting into whatever might be happening. And I know that there's lots of different groups that are trying, and one of the things that we need to do is work on efficiency with those types of organizations, so that people know what's available to them in their neighborhood, and when groups are trying to do the same thing over and over and over again, they're uniting as opposed to trying to reinvent the wheel.
Do you have any plans for affordable housing in the future?
We definitely need to expand our development in Kenosha. We definitely need more affordable housing. We definitely need to increase our access to housing, and the only way we can do that is by building. We're gonna need to build up as much as we're gonna need to build out. We're gonna need to make it easy for people to build upon the homes that they have. We need to make sure we're using our space efficiently, and we're needing to develop neighborhood identity so that those community connections that we're having happen in everybody's neighborhood keeps us safe, as opposed to everybody having to go downtown for activities and having to go downtown for festivals. And you're going to be able to know people, and the fact that we have a 10,000 unit thing, or 1,000 units being built downtown and 1,000 units being built in Forest Park, that's not going to be as scary when you're able to know your neighbors and you're not as, worried about what's happening because you know the people around you.
How do you guarantee that the little progress made in racial relations, inclusion, and reduction of social gaps does not slide back in dangerous reversals as the DEI controversy is amplified?
I think it's inappropriate to make guarantees. However, I do know that throughout my time in Kenosha, whether it was with the Girl Scouts or Boys and Girls Club, and even now, a lot of the issues that we face are the intersection of bureaucracy, policy, and real life, and how often the people who are writing our policy are not living the policy or suffering at the hands of that policy or bureaucracy. And when we talk about equity, it's very often treated as equality. So people are receiving the same services. But that's not going to benefit Kenosha if we're trying to make sure that Lincoln Park gets $10,000 and Forest Park gets $10,000 and Isaacs gets $10,000, because each neighborhood has a different need. And it's something that we can work towards, but that takes people in Kenosha wanting change, and change is something that has been rebuffed time and time again, and it's it's hard to make guarantees, and I just wish that we're able to make Kenosha a little bit easier for everyone to live in.
There is, unfortunately, a common expression voiced by the youth: there's nothing to do here, which isn't true. How would you change that rhetoric within our overall community? What makes Kenosha special?
Okay, I used to take umbrage to this question greatly. When I moved to Kenosha, and people are like, there's nothing to do in Kenosha. You must be the most boring person ever if you can't find anything to do in Kenosha. There used to be live music every single night of the week. There's art shows, there's all sorts of amazing things to do and people to meet, and you can do bowling and dart leagues, and we're right by a curling club in Racine. COVID kind of killed a lot of those things, and also now talking to people who put on those types of events, I'm finding out that, again, bureaucracy is limiting our ability to do things like that. And when people aren't able to put on shows, like put on live music shows, then if it's hard for them, they're not going to do it here. They're going to do it somewhere else. And when we don't have things to do, we get a lot of, oh, there's nothing to do in Kenosha. But really, there is a ton. First of all, there is a ton to do in Kenosha. Kenosha is so special. Besides being directly between Milwaukee and Chicago, and on the beautiful shores of Lake Michigan, Kenosha is so special because we have sidewalks, which not every city has. And I know that sounds silly, but I grew up in the country, and being able to walk places without feeling like I'm gonna get run over is huge. Right in my neighborhood, I can walk to amateur baseball, I can walk to Lake Michigan, I can walk to a corner grill, I can walk to several schools, like a pharmacy. I can keep going because I live in a very walkable neighborhood, and a lot of people have that in Kenosha, and that's not something you're gonna get everywhere. And the further west you go in Kenosha, you're not getting as much of that, and I'm hoping that we can move back towards, again, what is traditional Kenosha of people having their neighborhood and being able to rely upon things in their neighborhood. Oh gosh, what makes Kenosha special? I'm gonna keep going. We have the oldest operating velodrome in the United States. The velodrome in Washington Park is actually in a naturally occurring bowl. Kenosha used to be home of a bicycle manufacturer. So we have a rich tradition of bicycling. So the velodrome and the bike paths and all of these things, we definitely, when we talk about like Kenosha culture, we can be reinvesting in that so that we're keeping Kenosha, Kenosha. We used to have Coho-Rama. We used to be a city of festivals. I'm hoping we can bring back more festivals because people need things to do. I love Kenosha so much.
So do I.
Yeah, there's so many things that make Kenosha special. It's, I wish more people, I wish more people were excited about Kenosha as much as I am. For a while, people were like, do you work for the Visitors Bureau? Why are you so, and I was like, no, I just really love Kenosha. I was at a wedding in Milwaukee. I talked up Kenosha so much, I convinced my cousin to move here. He's like, it just made it sound like such a nice place to live. It is a really nice place to live. So yeah, Kenosha is a very, very special place. And I hope that more people take advantage of things like the sailing center, and that we're able to make people enjoy Kenosha through public access to public amenities, right? Making things available to them so they can enjoy their life more.
In short, please state your top 3 priorities. What impact do you think you can make within the community in Kenosha? What strikes you as the big issue that you want to take up when you become mayor?
So my 3 top points are safe water, safe streets, safe neighborhoods. I want to make sure that people are able to have public safety in a variety of forms, whether that's more lifeguards, whether that's better signage at the beach. I know they just put up a sign. People don't really understand structural currents still. People don't really understand the river currents still. We're having a lot of drownings. That's bad. You know, we have a lead pipe removal program that's not really advertised, and it's kind of sputtering because, again, there's just not communication with citizens. That's bad. I know we can do better. So when we say safe water, we're not just talking about future-proofing our water utility so that it's preparing for all the salt that's coming into Lake Michigan or the microplastics that are coming into Lake Michigan. We're talking about a variety of ways for us to be safer. Lifeguards, again, we need our pools open and available to the public. And without lifeguards, we can't do that. When I talk about safe streets, I'm not just talking about driver safety or bicyclist safety. Really, pedestrian right-of-way is a huge concern of mine. One of the questions you sent originally mentioned, what are you gonna do with all the speeders in Kenosha? And oh my gosh, I have made it a personal mission in front of my child's school to point at the stop sign. I look like a frantic person because there's no enforcement. There's no one. One of the things I found out was that the police are understaffed, essentially, that we only have enough officers to respond to calls. We don't really have officers to do enforcement. And so low-cost traffic calming measures are something that I'd like to implement very, very quickly with discretionary funds. It needs to be easy to get around Kenosha. It needs to be safe for people to get around Kenosha. When kids are trapped at home because they can't bike anywhere, because the buses don't run, because they can't walk anywhere, that's bad, right? Then there's nothing to do in Kenosha because you can't leave your house because it's unsafe. So it's a multifaceted problem when we talk about safe streets. Again, that we'd love the police to have more enforcement, but it may not be what we do. We have to do other things besides policing. And then safe neighborhoods, again, goes back to community connection. When you know your people on your street, when you know the people in your block, when you know the people in your neighborhood, you're a lot safer. When we have access to what are called third spaces, where you're seeing and meeting with your neighbors, it makes us all safer. So I'm hoping to encourage that type of development and behavior in each neighborhood so that we can all be safer before we have to be at a crisis level involving the police.
This is the final question, and it's from another anonymous KOSD high school student. What makes you suitable for the mayor position in the city? What makes you good as a leader?
What makes me a good leader? I'm very kind. I try to lead by example. I'm very much a person who lives my values. So like I said earlier, I'm taken personal umbrage to speeders and have gone out and stood on my street and just pointed at the sign frantically because it's a problem and I want to fix it, right? And I reached out to my alderman and he basically ignored me. And I reached out to the traffic engineer and he basically ignored me. He told me I should go down and cross at 75th and Sheridan because it's a controlled intersection. As someone who comes from a direct service background, I see time and time again where equality is not equity, where bureaucracy and policy and real life butt up against each other, where those people who are writing our policy are not stuck with our policy. One of my least favorite examples is a friend was going through a mental health crisis, and I was trying to help them secure different types of services. One of those was after we were at Kenosha Human Development Services over on 52nd was to get her a bus pass. Oh, but they have reduced bus passes. All right, great. Well, we'll go and get her. Oh, we can't get that at KHDS. Okay, we had to go all the way down to the job center, which is over on 8600 Sheridan, to get the form to get the approval for the discounted bus pass. But we don't get the bus pass there. You have to go down to City Hall to get the bus pass. So we have it, and we have these services, and why aren't people taking advantage of these services? And people should be taking advantage of these services. Well, but we make it really hard for them to take advantage of these services, or we almost make it so they can't take advantage of these services. So it's something that frustrates me as a single working mom. I'm coming from a place where other moms can't participate in this process. Other moms don't have a voice because if you don't have someone to provide you with free childcare, right? My parents are so involved in our life. I'm so blessed that I'm able to participate in this process, to go out and collect signatures and be all over the place. Other parents don't have those options. Other parents can't volunteer. Other parents can't participate. A lot of what's happening is people who are affected by policy are cut out of politics. And right now, we have a lot of excitement going around our campaign, and like I said, I come from a direct service background, so I've worked with a lot of different people individually. I love making individual connections. I may not have the same leadership experience of someone who has been maybe an alderman for 16 years, but I was recently on a county commission where I had to work with people I didn't agree with, and I didn't quit, and I showed up every single month. And there were times where I'd show up to presentations and I was the only one there. So I'm very much a person who commits. I'm very much a person who will see that the job is done, almost to the bitter end. I'm very much a type of person that I will not quit. And so I would be good for Kenosha because I am determined, I am enthusiastic. One of the things that I describe myself as is aggressively helpful. And it's the energy, that's that energy I want to bring to Kenosha. I'm not the youngest person. I'm sure there are younger people that are running for mayor, and I'm hoping that I'm still energetic enough and I'm still enthusiastic enough at my ripe old age of 37 that I can bring, a lot of vigor to the position. And I think that Kenosha deserves someone who enthusiastically loves Kenosha. And I know while we're not all gonna agree, I want us all to focus on the fact that we love Kenosha. And that is really how I'm hoping to get things done as a mayor.
This concludes our mayoral forum at UW Parkside. We, the community of the University of Wisconsin-Parkside, acknowledge with gratitude and humility the First Nations people of Wisconsin, whose original homelands lie within the state. We especially wish to recognize the Ho-Chunk, Miami, and Potawatomi nations for their significant historical and spiritual connections with the Parkside area. Our footsteps do not replace theirs, but rest alongside them. Today, Wisconsin is home to 12 First Nations communities: the Ho-Chunk Nation, the Oneida Nation of Wisconsin, the Menominee Nation, the Forest County Potawatomi Community, the Stockbridge-Munsee Band of the Mohicans, the Brotherton Indian Nation, and 6 Lake Superior bands of the Ojibwe Nation: the Bad River, La Côte Oreille, Lac du Flambeau, Mole Lake Skogan, Red Cliff, and St. Croix bands. The University of Wisconsin-Parkside acknowledges and honors this history and these nations. Special gratitude goes to the mayoral candidates who actively engaged in this forum, namely Andreas Meyer, David Bugdala, Elizabeth Garcia, Corey Elijah Washington, and Lydia Spotswood. Our thankfulness extends to Professor Alvaro Garcia, Music and Associate Dean of the College of Arts and Humanities, Sound Manager, Instructor Kevin Gray, and Parkside student Liam Simpson for operating the sound and camera work for this forum. Much appreciation to Dr. Simone Aretona Akindes, the Professor of Political Science and Director of International Studies at UW Parkside, who played a crucial role in refining the questions posed by members of the Kenosha community. Special recognition goes to the Executive Board of Parkside Student Government, who initiated and brought this concept to life, as well as selecting the elementary and high school questions. Acknowledgement to Kenosha filmmaker Evan Parshall, owner and editor of the 88s on YouTube, who provided the exterior drone footage shots of the Rita Talent Pickens Center for Arts and Humanities, as well as Parkside's natural environment. Musical intro number Evanston Civic Band March was provided by the UWP Wind Ensemble and Community Band, led by Dr. Laura Rexroth. The musical outro number, Theme for Ariana, Second Movement, was composed by Parkside student Joey Bellotti and led by Professor Alvaro Garcia. Also, thank you to the staff at the University of Wisconsin-Parkside who allowed this important forum to take place. Last, but certainly not least, thanks to all the others involved and the Kenosha citizens who submitted these insightful questions. Your invaluable contributions were indispensable to the success of this endeavor. Thank you.